me see who's here. Ariana? Ten, 20. Oh my. Talia? Taryn is in the classroom. Paul is going to be absent. Reagan? Joe, I see you. Destiny, I see you. Ryuna, I thought, yes, I see you. Dana, yes, I see you. Abby,
I'm here, I'm working.
okay. Veronica,
I'm here.
oh, okay. Oh, there you are. Brenda, yes. Deasia, yes. Liz, yes. Whitney. And Alyssa, I saw you. Okay. All right. I don't want to do that. Uh-oh. More people. Ariana. Talia. And who is the owner of this iPhone? Who is that? Oh, it's still connecting. What?
I can't really hear her.
Yeah, I can't either. We'll figure this out.
So it's most important.
Let me get all this. So, all right. Was somebody talking? Was
All
somebody
right, I'm
talking?
sorry, I didn't realize mine was not muted. But
Oh, okay. All right. Whoever's on this iPhone, who is that? Probably could get it by. Hello? Nobody's gonna admit to it? Who's on the iPhone? All right. We'll figure about that later. So,
It looks like the mic just turned off.
what?
Well, they turned the mic on and they turned it off. So I guess they were trying to talk, but they couldn't. They may still
We'll
be having
figure it out.
connection issues.
Can you, you're gonna probably need to move so you can see the screen better, because I'm gonna mostly be using the screen. All right, anybody have any questions? So let me remind you where we are on our process. So we're working on this research project on writing in the professions and disciplines. And the draft is due on Thursday, this coming class. And you need to have the draft with you for class. And it will be, it should be as a Google Doc so that we can share with each other, and we'll be doing some kind of group conferences. So that's where we are, just logistically. Are there any questions about that particular part of it?
Okay, when did you say the draft is due?
The draft is due for class on Thursday. That is when at 1:40. And we'll be having peer review conferences. So you have to bring it to class. It should be as a Google Doc so we can easily share it. Okay? Any questions on that logistic part? So today, we're going to talk about documentation. And we're going to be using the material on week 9 in the course site. And I'm going to talk about APA. And there are a couple of you that don't, maybe in the profession or discipline that you're in, would not use APA. But the more I think about it, the more I think the better thing is just everybody do APA. I don't think it's worth it at this point to learn legal citation for the two of you who are interested in that. And it seems to me like the computer science engineering people, they don't seem to have a commitment to any particular documentation. So if you find out otherwise from them, let me know and we will work to make sure you know how to get to it. So I find that the material in the Excelsior OWL Online Writing Lab is a really good resource for talking about documentation. Another good resource is the Purdue OWL, and that is included in this list of additional resources for documenting. And of course, the handbook, which I asked you to get, and I don't know at all whether people were able to get it or not. I'm going to hold it up here. Oops, there it goes. It just kind of likes to. This is a very persnickety camera. In any case, I'm going to hold it up and it's on the syllabus. I personally find it useful to have my own written handbook because then I can just sit there and look at things. But I'm really realizing that, most people now use online resources. So I'm going to focus on the online resources in talking about this. And we're going to go to this Excelsior OWL and work with that for a little bit. Now, I've mentioned this before, but just to clarify, when I talk about APA style is a bunch of things, including the formatting for the whole paper. I'm only working on the documentation part of it. That is, how do you cite sources? But all these resources about APA will give you the information about the format for the papers themselves. And I know that in nursing, they will ask you to do that kind of formatting, possibly also in social work. It kind of depends on the teacher, I think. So here we are at the Excelsior Online Writing Lab. It covers not just documentation, but other things to do with writing. And Excelsior is a university in New York that has been doing online instruction for a long time, and that's why they have developed a really nice looking writing lab, online writing lab. And one of the reasons I tend to use it for this class is because their primary programs are all health professions. And so they, I don't know how the order, but they do all these online, the university does all these online nursing and other health professions programs. And so they tend to have nursing examples in there. But it applies to other situations as well. So here's the home site of the Excelsior Online Writing Lab. We're going to look at citation and documentation. And one of the nice things about their site is that it gives you this navigation panel on the side, and you keep seeing that while you're looking at it. One of the reasons I'm less positive about the Purdue OWL is that I find its navigation impossible anymore. And so part of the problem is they've been around so long, they've developed so many things, and it's just kind of an overwhelming thing. If you search on the Purdue OWL, you can always find things. It's just not as easy when you first get there to try to figure out where they put things. But the Excelsior OWL, they've just decided they're more of a minimalist. They don't try to keep everything up there all the time.
So it's more concise.
Yes, it's more concise, and it's just more easily accessible for, at the beginning at least, of what you're doing. As these little diagrams here on the page say APA, MLA, and Chicago, these are the three primary citation styles that are used in most universities and most professions. And so that's the three that they cover. Those are the three that are in the handbook, although I think there's also a science format as well. One of the things that makes it a little difficult is that they're always revising these things. And so there's constant needing to be updating. So APA was just recently revised, and they are now using the 7th edition. Originally, they didn't revise them that often, but because of all the internet sources that are out there and the technology, all of the organizations are tending to revise more frequently. So under the citation and documentation, there's some general information, and then there's APA, MLA, and Chicago. We're just going to look at APA. And as I said, they will cover the formatting of the paper itself.
This short video is meant to give students who are...
That is loud. They will cover the formatting, but that's not what we're interested in. We're going to look at text citations and references. Now, I showed a video at the end of class last week, And it is on the week 8 page. And it is an overview of all documentation. And as you saw there, all documentation has some kind of list of sources that you use at the end. It might be called different things. It might be called a bibliography. It might be called works cited, which is MLA. The bibliography is Chicago, and then APA is references. And then they all have within the text itself a way of in-text citation. And the whole point about the in-text citation is to give just enough information in the in-text citation to get the person to the right reference in the list. So the idea is not to have a whole lot of information in text because you don't want to distract the reader. And so it's just as much as you need to get them to the right source. And over the years, they've developed ways to do that. Unfortunately, each of these organizations, MLA, APA, and Chicago, has slightly different ways of doing it, slightly different punctuation. They're always doing the same thing. One of the things that I know drives students crazy is the fact that there'll be slightly different kinds of punctuation, slightly different rules. And they're wondering, why do I have to waste my time learning these stupid little rules? First of all, you don't have to waste your time learning them. You need to get a reference. Don't bother memorizing them. If you end up using them over time, you will learn them well. You just have to get a reference that you use always, which is why I spent a little time pointing out about how Excelsior is there and the handbook is there.
I have a Word format that I have saved to my documents, just so anytime I do APA, I can look back and go through everything and see it.
Yeah, so Taryn just said, I don't know if everybody can hear that she has basically created her own template in her Word Pro software so that she can just kind of follow it. So there are 2 parts of documentation. There's the in-text citation and there's the reference list at the end. We're going to click on what they say for in-text citations. And there's a little bit of explanation. Notice up here that it says 7th edition. The 7th edition is so recent that they're still sharing information about the 6th edition. And so you can click there if you need it. I think we're going to listen to this to start with.
This short video will focus on the basic setup for in-text citations. It's helpful to get an idea about why in-text citations are important and when they should be used. In APA, you should use citations in parentheses within the text to let your audience know when you have borrowed information and where that information has come from. Most students know to cite direct quotes, but it is important to remember you must also include in-text citations for summarized and paraphrased information. You are not just citing words, you are citing ideas. For more information about what kinds of information must be cited within your text, be sure to review the Avoiding Plagiarism tutorial in the Excelsior OWL. In APA, the basic in-text citation, referred to as a parenthetical citation, includes the author's last name, the year, and the page number or paragraph number. Please note that page or paragraph numbers are only required for direct quotes. Here you will see the basic version of an in-text citation. In parentheses, after the quote, you should provide the author's last name, a comma, the year, a comma, a P and a period, followed by the page number. Also, in this example, the source included 3 authors, so the student has listed et al. After the first name. There are variations on the standard in-text citation, however, as you will often use the author or authors' last names as you set up a quote or paraphrased material. This is referred to as a narrative citation. Here, you will notice the student has used the author's name to set up this quoted material. You must place the year after the mention of the name. Then you will need an additional citation for the page number after the quote. Let's take a closer look at a citation from an online source that did not include a page number. In this case, APA requires that you list the paragraph number. You will notice the PARA, para, in the citation. This lets your readers know that there were no page numbers, but this is the paragraph number for that information. Finally, it is important to think about punctuation for your in-text documentation as well.
I'm sorry, I just think I wanted to double check that I am recording this
Oh,
because I turned it off. Not sure I can find it.
It still shows recording in our corners.
It shows recording? Okay, good.
one question I do have, when it's talking about the page number as a citation, if you're doing your source off of like a website, isn't that where you would use the articles, the name of the article as that citation instead of the paragraph number or page number? Or do you still use the paragraph?
You would still use the paragraph number.
Okay,
The name of the article might go into the title, into the,
the bottom.
no, if there's no author,
Mhm,
you might have to put the name of the, or of the website
okay.
instead.
In APA, you should place commas between each item in your in-text citations. For short quotes or paraphrases, you should place your period after the in-text citation. For longer quotes or block quotes, you should place your period before the citation. In closing, the important thing to remember is to cite any ideas you borrow and to include only the required information in your in-text citation. Full publication information will be saved for your references list, which is explored in the references section on APA format in the Excelsior OWL.
So I'm sure you can't remember all those little details, but I wanted you to have the basic overview to start with. How do you find out all the little details? Well, in the Excelsior OWL, what they do is on each page, they will give you a explanation. So I can navigate the Excelsior OWL by either going, using the arrows, the previous and the next, or I can use the navigation menu. So if I click next, the next thing is about single author. And it gives you an example. Of an in-text citation with a single author. So one scholar argued that it is impossible to measure social class, and then Calvert, 1982. So the thing to remember about APA in-text citations is between each item in the citation, you put a comma. Now, there is no page or paragraph number listed there. Why not?
Probably because it's from a direct quote from the person.
It's not a direct quote
It's not,
from the person. So if there was a direct quote with quotation marks, then you would put the parentheses. And I think we will, if we in fact look down below under direct quotes, we have, according to Smith 2018, The number of birds in North America has declined by 2.9 billion, wow, since 1970, unquote, page 31. So here, because there is a quotation, we tell the reader exactly what page. And if it were no page numbers, we would say the paragraph number on it, which is sometimes hard to know if we're talking about a very long document. But we do our best. Notice again, there are two different ways to do it. You can not put any information in, from the source in the sentence itself, in which case you put the name, the year, and the page number all in the parentheses. Or you can embed the author's name in the sentence itself, and then you just put the year after the author's name and the page at the end. If you have two authors, include both authors with and in between, and it's the ampersand when it goes into the parentheses. Because remember, the whole goal of an in-text citation is to try to give as much information as possible in as little space as possible. And so that's why you would use the ampersand. But if you've embedded the author into your sentence itself, you would use the regular spelled out and, because you wouldn't normally use an ampersand in regular text. 3 or more authors, you get to use et al. Instead. Et al. Is from Latin. Et is and al period is the abbreviation for et alia, which is others. And this is one of those things that it took me a while to learn. So there is no period after the et, but there is a period after the al, because that's an abbreviation of alia. And then you put a comma after it just because you put a comma after all of them. If there's a group author, you basically treat the same thing. It's just that it's a group author. So here, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, NIMH, 2019, women between the ages of 40 and 59 have the highest rates of depression in the United States. And here is the alternate version. What they're saying here is that if this organization has an abbreviation, you put the abbreviation in there, you're helping your reader to identify this organization.
Miss Matson, I hate to interrupt. Could you let Ariana back in? She got kicked out and
Oh,
she's trying to get back in.
Oh, there we are. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Sometimes you don't know who the author is, like that may happen if you're working on a website. Although if a website is produced by an organization, you can use the organization as that group author. Then what you do is basically you jump to the next thing that would be in the reference item, which is the title. And so these examples are from websites, I think. So children who are neglected suffer from trauma that can last a lifetime. And then in parentheses is foundations of social literacy. It is well, you can't completely tell whether it's a website or whether it's a book that doesn't have any author or what. You know, because it's italicized, that it's the large part of something. And then, of course, the parentheses, I'm sorry, the date tells you that it was 2018.
It also doesn't include, well, I guess it's not a direct quote since it doesn't include the page or paragraph number.
Right.
Okay.
So unless there's a direct quote, you don't put the page or paragraph number. And then it says, if the work is not italicized within the reference, use quotation marks around the title. This Medical Science Today 2019 means that the reference source is somehow a part of something larger. It's not italicized. And so it's possibly an article title or a page from a larger website title. If the work is attributed anonymous, use anonymous instead. And so you would put anonymous. Now, one of the things to be aware of is whatever you put in your in-text citation needs to be the first thing in a list of references. And why? Because you're helping your reader point to it right away. So don't pick out some piece of the reference that's in the middle to put in the parentheses, because your reader wants something easy to they want, it's like a line, a direct arrow to the very first line in the list of references. Okay, here's an important one for this paper. Personal communications. So you are doing an interview as one of your sources. And an interview is considered personal communication. APA never includes personal communications in the list of references because it is non-retrievable. A personal conversation between you and some person is not something that person can, that your reader can access anywhere, unless they get your letters when you die or something. So it is non-recoverable, non-retrievable data. And so it is not included in the list of references. This is different from both MLA and Chicago. And, I don't know about other ones as well. It's just that the way APA functions, because APA is really wanting to emphasize scientific evidence. And a personal communication is not the same kind of, scientific evidence is evidence that other people can look at and evaluate. And it's that process of looking at other people, looking at all the different evidence that leads to the understanding of whatever the topic is.
In personal communications, the reader can never go back and have the exact same conversation with whoever you talk to personally.
Right. However, you do include indication of personal communications in the in-text citations. So you can say here, opinions vary when it comes to the correct way to baste a turkey. J. Doe Personal Communication, December 8th, 2018.
Ooh, and you include the exact date, okay.
Yes, so you have a personal communication with somebody, it's going to be a specific date. And you could say personal communication, you could also say email, you could be specific about what you did. For that matter, you could be specific in your own text. You could say, in an email with me on December 8th, 2018, Jane Doe said blah, blah, blah. And then you don't even need any parentheses because you put all of the information into your own text. Let me stop and ask if there are any questions. Okay, so now we're going to, and by the way, here are all these different options. And, you know, hopefully if you, whatever source you're using, you will find the right thing that's listed there and be able to figure out what to do. So let's shift now to the references. And on this page, there is explanations about the formatting of the references. And then along the side, you'll see all these examples of things. But let's listen to this video again.
This APA video will provide you with the basic information for formatting your references page. Here are some important things to remember about the references list. No source should appear on your references list that is not cited in your paper with in-text citations. Your sources should be listed in alphabetical order by the first word of each entry. Each source type has its own structure. So a book has a certain structure, as does a journal article, a magazine article, etc. You should not try to memorize the structures. You simply have to look up the formatting each time you begin putting together your references. You can use a reference generator, but be careful to always double check, as the generators often make mistakes. The APA references section in the OWL provides you with visual support and clear examples for each source type. Pay close attention to the capitalization rules in your references, as APA does not follow what you might perceive as standard capitalization for some titles. For example, in article titles, you should capitalize only the first word, any proper nouns, and the first letter of the subtitle, which is found after the colon. APA refers to this capitalization style as sentence case capitalization. When you begin your references page, you will notice that it is simply another page in your document, so you should have the page number at the top right. You should center the word references at the top of your page and then begin your entries. The word references should be in bold font. Keep your line spacing at double spaced. In this short video, we cannot address all the many types of sources you might encounter, but this short list of references contains a YouTube video, an article from an online newspaper, a website, and a journal article. A nice thing about following APA formatting carefully is that your readers can tell by simply looking at your references list what kinds of sources you used because of the structure and order of information. This can help your readers note your diverse and credible sources even at a glance. Remember, it is important to keep a good APA resource handy as you create your references list. You may rely on the APA Manual 7th edition or the helpful APA resources in the Excelsior Online Writing Lab.
One thing is you also notice that the first name of the source or first name of the reference is also in alphabetical order as you go down.
Yes. So let's see if there's a sample in here. What's this? This is the thing about the formatting guide. APA activity, oh, that's something to do. Okay, so back to the references. So we ended talking about the interview and how you would cite it. And they said, you do not put it in the references. You notice there's nothing in this list that says anything about references, about interviews. But if you click on other sources, it'll remind you personal communications, which are considered non-recoverable data by the APA, are information that readers cannot typically access. And so it reminds you that you don't include it in your reference list. The maybe I would like to show a sample. So after I was mean to Purdue OWL, here is a sample APA paper, and we're going to skip to the references. All right. So here in this sample paper, you see the overall structure of a references list. Remember, the first word of the entry is the word that you would be using in the in-text citation. So we have authors in each of these: Cummings, Who, Tidwell, Underwood. And so each of those would have those authors' names at the beginning of the parenthetical citation. We have a group author here, 1, 2, 3, 4 names, which in the in-text citation would be the first name, Who, et al., etc. We have an author, a double author, which would be in an in-text, Tidwell and Walther. And same with the next one, Underwood and Finley. So that's just to remind you of the connection. Now, the video talked about the formatting with the word references at the top and double spaced. It did not mention one thing, which is hanging indent. What is hanging indent? It means that second and any afterwards lines are indented. It's the reverse of a paragraph. So regular paragraphs, you indent the first line and then everything else goes to the last line. I'm sorry, everything else goes flush left. With hanging indent, it's inversed so that you have the first thing in an entry as far left as possible, and everything else is indented by 5. Now, So if I have a Google document, if I have a Google document and I want to change it to hanging indent, it is really pretty easy to do. I think has been added. What you do is you select what you want to treat as hanging indent. And let's say we're going to do all three of these paragraphs. You go to format and then align and indent, because we're talking about a type of indenting. And then the sub menu is indentation options. And we want to do hanging, as it is one of the special indents. So you just do this. And look, it magically changes. Why do you want to do it through the formatting tool? I see lots of people trying to do the spacing so that it would work. But what happens when you do that, you know, when you do manual spacing, is you make any change to your text and suddenly your spacing falls apart. With if you let the tool do it, then you can add some more words.
And it stays the same.
And it keeps it in there. With Microsoft Word, we have the same thing. And actually, Microsoft Word has a nice shortcut. I'm not actually sure. It's not letting me go into Word. It's got some kind of privacy setting on it. Microsoft Word has the same thing, but it also has a shortcut, which is Control T, or if you're using a Mac, I think it's Apple T. So you just select the paragraph, or in this case, the entry from a reference list, and you would do Control T if you're using Microsoft Word. So going back to Purdue OWL, we're looking at the references, and starting with the first one, this first one gives you the basic model for a reference list. There are basically three pieces of any reference item. And depending on the type of source, it'll be slightly different. Basically, the first piece is the author and date. That's the most important part. That's why it goes first. That's what goes in the in-text citation. The second part is the name of whatever this thing is. And then the third part is publishing information. Did you get it from a book? Did you get it from an article, etc.? Now, of course, each medium has different kinds of publishing information, so you have different kinds of ways of dealing with it. But if we start with a book, we can see the basic model, which is author's last name, comma, author's first and middle initials, period, and the year of publication. Then the title italicized, and then the publisher. So there you have what I said, the three main components. The author plus the year, or date if it's more expansive, the title of whatever it is, and then the publisher information. Really easy with books. The one thing that people have problem with books is they forget about this sentence capitalization that APA uses. I have no idea why they do it. MLA doesn't use it, so I've had to reteach myself about that. Maybe it's to make it easier to type. You know, you don't have to keep doing capital letters. They also don't use quotation marks in titles, and I think that may be because to make it easier to type. Under this single book, they also tell you how to deal with multiple authors. Multiple authors, you list up to 20 authors by their last name. And in scientific research, there's often multiple authors because it's often a group project, but 20 is really a lot. But what you do is you list all of them. Now here they've just given 3. So, and then you put a comma and then the final one. If there are 21 or more, you still do 20, but what you do is 19, and then at the end, you do ... before the very last one. And so that ... is 21 is, or sorry, 20 through whatever is there. Kind of nuts. But notice, so we have the multiple authors, ending with the year, then you have the title, and then you have the publishing information. And all you have to do is the name of the press. Sometimes a book is not actually written by a person, but edited by a person. And so this is how you would say if the item is something that you have cited that is edited. Note the difference between edited and chapter or article in an edited book. So if you're just using one part of an edited book, which is often what we'll do because there's lots of books out there where they have multiple articles by different people, you're not citing the editor, you're citing the author of the piece that you read. You don't want to imply that you read the whole book. You're saying that you read this one article within a larger whole. So you cite the name of the book, the name of the author of the article. The article is called Imperfection is Meaningless, on Prayer and Channing. And then you say in, and then you give the information of the editor as if exactly like the one for editor. So you're saying, I have a part that's in a larger whole. The part to whole idea is a helpful thing in thinking about any of your references, because often you are looking at some part to some larger whole. And now that we are in the internet age, that really happens when you're looking at websites. So you need to become aware of what's the whole website and what's the part of the website that you're looking at. Okay. So, I'm not going to go through all this because you can definitely do this on your own. Your papers are going to have personal communication, hopefully something from some organizational website, and hopefully some articles. So I want to point out something about the articles from the all right, so let's say you get an article from Academic Search Complete, and I'm just going to randomly All right. Oh, okay. So this is an interesting article. Academic writing as identity work in higher education, performing a professional writing in higher education habitus. This is in a source called Studies in Higher Education. And here's the author. Almost all of these academic searches have a citation creator. One of the reasons why it's nice to use the academic databases. So I click on Cite, and lo and behold, you will see there are many more types of citation than APA, MLA, and Chicago. They have listed here Brazilian national standards. Wow. I don't know what. The American Medical Association. Here's APA, here's Chicago, here's Harvard, which is similar, and Australian. Oh, the Australian version of Harvard, which is similar to Chicago, and here's Harvard directly. Here's the Chicago Turabian, MLA, and Vancouver. So there are many more types of citation formats than we will be talking about. We're interested in APA. And what I just did there is I clicked on the APA, and the EBSCO databases gives you some explanation about how to cite sources. So here's another reference for you. It also tells you how it's cited. So we have the author's name, the first initial of the author's name, then the year. Then we have a title, Academic Writing as Identity Work in Higher Education, forming a professional writing in higher education habitus. This is in Studies in Higher Education. There's the volume and number. There's the pages, and there's the DOI. The thing about all of these citation creators is they always have at least one error. One of the sources I looked at that was talking about this says, think of them as a draft. It is a draft that you need to pay attention to. Can anybody tell what the one error is?
They didn't capitalize forming.
Yes, they didn't capitalize after the colon. So I was impressed, actually. The most common error I see on the EBSCO databases is the this sentence case issue. So, so use them, and you can also use like citation. Word has a citation creator, but be aware that you still need to know what the rules are and double check that it hasn't created something wrong. In addition, when you use a citation creator, you can go like this, copy it, and then paste it into your thing. And depending on what software you're using, it may paste it into a different font. It may put a different font in than you're using. So my Google Doc here actually changed the font to Arial, which is what I was using. And so I don't have to change that. But make sure that if it's got a different font that you actually change to whatever font you're using. And again, I can make it indented through hanging indent by using the format, align and indent, and then indentation options. There's a lot of clicks here. And then the hanging indent. Okay. So I know this is really not always interesting to people. However, it's really not that hard. And if you want to at least make a good impression on teachers, you can go ahead and follow these formats because it really establishes your ethos, your credibility by one, it shows your attention to detail. Two, it shows that you respect the reader's time because you are taking the time to get this all accurate rather than making them try to interpret whatever it is that you put up there as citations. So, in conclusion, for Thursday, you are going to produce a draft of your report. Hopefully, you have good documentation in there, but that can certainly be one of the things we talk about. Have the report ready for class. This is different than the last time because this time we're having peer review during class time. Okay? I guess last time I actually said, try to get it to me the night before. So that would be good, but we can work on it. If you can get it to me earlier, that'd be great. Just share it with me as a Google Doc whenever you have it ready. Actually, you could share it with me and then keep working on it. There's no, if it's a Google Doc, so there's no reason why, you can't get it to me sooner. So, questions? All right, I'm sorry about being late. I was going to give you time to actually construct all your entries, but that's what we lost. So I will see you on Thursday.